There are many reasons why you may want to be a better writer or write more consistently or just push through that fear of writing. I'm going to tell you the 5 books that helped me push through the fear of writing and learn to blog consistently weekly for the past 12 years, as well as publish my first book. One of the first books that I read that made a big difference was The War of Art by Steven Pressfield. And in The War of Art, he talks about the war going on inside of us, and he calls that war resistance. That inner dialogue that we have with ourselves that tells us we're not good enough, we can't write, no one's going to read, it's crap, and how to sit down and just put that voice in the back seat, turn the dial down on it, shut it off, and just do the work, which is the second book by Steven Pressfield that builds on that idea. In The War of Art, we learn about resistance and do the work. We really learn how to sit down and do the work. In both of his books, Steven Pressfield talks about you need to create a consistent habit of writing, not just wait for creativity to hit you. You need to sit down every day and do the work. And I've learned over time that, yes, sometimes I don't feel like it, but when I sit down and do the work, eventually it comes. Maybe not in the beginning. The first little bit is not so good, but if I keep working at it, I get better. Which brings me to probably one of my favorite books on writing that really helped me both see how other people see it as well, but also to just work through the writing process. And that is Bird by Bird by Annie Lamott. Now, she's funny, which is hilarious to read, and just the way she talks about, again, same as Steven Pressfield, those thoughts that are going in our head, those challenges we're having, and how to just work through that. The biggest challenge I think that we have as a writer is thinking we're not good enough, feeling incompetent, the imposter syndrome. It's all of that inner dialogue that stops us. And in Anne's books, she really, again, takes you through that process of what's going on inside of us and how to work through that. One of the most quoted things from Anne's work is the shitty first draft. And what she says is, we all think we're going to sit down and write this beautiful piece of artwork and prose. And what happens is we don't. But we write a shitty first draft that gets us into it, gets us going, and then we can work through it. Even if you're writing an email, don't do this in your email system, do it somewhere else. But draft the email, and it sucks. And you've taken no feeling into it. You've just been rude and pointed and blunt and say what you need to say. And then maybe you work through it and add a little bit of human element to it and maybe a little bit of compassion. Or the opposite, you've got all this fluff, but you've never said what you need to say. That shitty first draft gets us into the process that helps us move forward in the writing. The first draft is probably never going to be the one you use or send or print, but it gets us in the process. Number 4 on the list is by Elizabeth Gilbert, called Big Magic. Elizabeth Gilbert, if you remember, wrote Eat, Pray, Love, hugely popular book. But Elizabeth's book on Big Magic is how to get those creative juices flowing. While Steven Pressfield talks about that inner dialogue, which, trust me, all of these authors talk about, the other thing that Elizabeth talks about is our muse. And we kind of wait for our muse to show up, the creativity, the inspiration. We hope it just magically appears someday. And she does this whole process of talking about the muse is always there. We, again, just like Stephen says, you need to sit down and create a consistent habit of writing. The muse shows up when you show up. And it's not going to show up the minute you sit down with your fingers on the keyboard or your hand on the pen or the pencil. But if you stay and get into the process, again, shitty first draft, keep moving through it, that creativity will come. That muse will come. The flow, the words, what you're looking for will come. But again, you've got to be consistent about it and show up. Steven Pressfield says every day, I write every day. In some way, shape, or form, I'm writing every single day. And I don't wait for the creativity to hit. I sit down at my desk and I write. To get in the habit of sitting down and writing every day, the 5th book on my list is The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. Julia Cameron is known for morning pages. So every morning you sit down and you write a stream of consciousness onto your page. Whatever sort of flows into you, you write. And every morning you just sit down and write. You can also use prompts. So there's tons of apps out there that give you a prompt. And then whatever that prompt is, maybe it's grandmother. And then you just write whatever comes to mind about grandmother. part of it is, again, just getting into the system, the habit, the process of writing. And Julia Cameron really encourages that process. Now, I think it's Julia Cameron, but it might be a different author. But I'll go on a side note here too. One of the other things I learned from all of these books on the creative process was you have to put in if you're going to take out. You have to. So for me, I'm an avid reader. I read a lot. I mix together what I'm learning and then I put it out. But also, if you're going to be a creative writer, you have to find new words and you have to find new stories and new names and new situations. In my coaching with my clients, I'm always going, oh, there's a situation I can write about, or there's a challenge somebody's having. I can use the information from that book and pull it together into a blog. But you've got to feed into this creative process. And part of that is just general creativity. So going for a walk out in nature, listening to music, playing around trying to compose music or make art or other creative forms other than writing will help you be a better writer. So the bottom line from all of these authors in the creative process is don't wait for creativity to show up. Sit down, do the work, but feed into it. Don't let those thoughts in your head get in the way. Don't wait for the muse to magically show up, but be an artist, be an author, be a writer, be whatever it is that you're looking to be. Just do it now. Sit down and write every single day, and you'll be amazed at the difference that you can learn just by that process. The links for all of the books are in the notes below. Comment below what's your favorite book for getting into the creative process. If it's one of these, what did you like about it? If not, add another one. We all want to have a long-going list that helps us be more creative. And YouTube thinks this is the next video that's really going to help you out.